open as Maya stepped into the grand hall of the Hawthorne estate, the late afternoon light slashing through the tall windows like judgment. She hadn't been here in 2 years, not since her mother's funeral, and the air still smelled of old money and lemon wax, like everything had been preserved for a version of the family that no longer existed. Everyone was already seated around the long dining table. Her father, Reginald Hawthorne, sat at the head with his silver hair slicked back and his spine straight as a blade. He didn't rise when she walked in. Her brother Daniel, already halfway through a whiskey, leaned back in his chair with the smugness of a man who'd never heard the word no. Maya could feel it before a word was said, the weight of being the daughter they tolerated but never celebrated. "Didn't expect you to show," Daniel muttered, without looking up from his phone. "Thought you'd be too busy with your little charity job." Maya ignored the jab. She'd learned not to flinch. "I came because I was invited," she said quietly, taking a seat at the far end of the table. The lawyer, Mr. Whitaker, sat beside her with a leather briefcase resting at his feet. He gave her a small nod of respect, perhaps the only one she'd receive all day. Their father cleared his throat. "Well," Reginald said, folding his hands together, "let's get this over with." He didn't look at her when he spoke. He addressed the lawyer, but his voice carried enough venom to scorch the air. "Mr. Whitaker, you have the paperwork?" "Yes," the lawyer replied, reaching into his briefcase. "Though I'd advise we go over the final clause before." "I've read it," Reginald snapped. "I know exactly what it says. My son Daniel will inherit the estate, the business, the shares, all of it." Maya's stomach tightened. She knew this day would come. She thought she was prepared. "Your daughter," Whitaker said calmly, "is entitled to a review as well." "She doesn't earn anything," Reginald said coldly, finally turning his eyes on Maya. "You left this family the day you chose strangers over your blood." Maya stared at him, heart beating like war drums in her chest. She didn't rise, didn't shout. She simply said, "You mean the day I chose people who needed help over a company that sold lies?" "Philanthropy isn't a career," her father snapped. "You're a social worker who lives in a shoebox apartment, probably lives off stale coffee and moral superiority." Daniel chuckled under his breath. "She once made a Facebook fundraiser for a kid's broken bike. Raised like, what, $20? "Enough," Maya said, but her voice was steady.
"Strong."
Reginald turned back to the lawyer and pulled the pen from his blazer pocket. "Let's finish this." Mr. Whitaker hesitated. Then slowly, without speaking, he placed a single sealed envelope on the table in front of Reginald. "What's this?" her father asked. Whitaker glanced toward Maya, who gave a small nod. "You might want to read that first," the lawyer said. Reginald scowled and tore the envelope open. The room went deathly quiet as his eyes scanned the contents. The silence stretched. His jaw slackened. His hands trembled, just barely, but enough that Maya noticed. "What is this?" he finally asked. Whitaker leaned forward. "Your late wife's final amendment. Handwritten, dated, and legally witnessed. She asked it be kept sealed until this moment." Daniel stood now. "Wait, what the hell is going on?" "Your mother," the lawyer continued, "wanted to ensure that her voice was heard when it mattered most." Reginald dropped the page like it had burned him. This is a mistake." "No," Maya said, rising from her seat. "It's not." Whitaker read aloud. "Daniel has had everything. Opportunities, education, freedom from consequence. But Maya has my heart. She has done what this family forgot how to do. Care. I leave her my shares, my private trust, and my controlling vote in the company." Daniel's face drained of color.
"What? No."
"That can't be right." Maya stepped closer, slowly, her voice quiet but shaking the room. "It's right. Mom knew what she was doing. She knew you'd never see my worth. So, she made sure I wouldn't have to prove it to you ever again." Reginald's hands curled into fists. "You don't belong in that world." "You're right," she replied. "But I'm not here to belong. I'm here to lead." She turned to Daniel. "And starting Monday, I'll be taking your office." Whitaker handed her a leather folder. "As majority shareholder, You'll need to meet with the board. Daniel slammed his glass onto the table. You're ruining this family. No, Maya whispered, looking between them both. You already did. I'm just rebuilding it without the rot. And with that, she walked out, leaving her father speechless, her brother fuming, and her mother's voice still echoing in the room like a quiet storm finally breaking. The boardroom was cold, not just from the overactive air conditioning, but from the stiff, polished men in suits who eyed Maya like a tourist lost on Wall Street. She had dressed as powerfully as she knew how, navy blazer, silk blouse, hair tied back, not too tight, not too loose. But the moment she stepped in, the air felt heavier. She sat at the head of the long glass table. Daniel had taken the far corner, flanked by two old allies, board members who had been on payroll longer than Maya had been alive. She could feel the skepticism in every glance. You all know why we're here, Mr. Whitaker began, clearing his throat. As of yesterday, Maya Hawthorne is the majority shareholder and successor of the late Mrs. Lillian Hawthorne's trust. One man, Gerald Kim, snorted. No offense, Miss Hawthorne, but what do you know about running a billion-dollar company? You've spent your life fixing broken things, not building empires. I know broken systems, Maya replied smoothly. I've spent years understanding how neglect and arrogance destroy people from the inside. That's more relevant here than you think. Daniel leaned forward, smirking. Look, Maya. You made your point yesterday. You embarrassed Dad, shocked the room.
Fine.
But this is grown-up business. You're out of your depth. And the only reason you're sitting there is because because she had a soft spot. Maya didn't blink. No, Daniel. I'm here because she saw what you all refused to. And the truth is, I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to fix what you broke. She opened a folder and slid it down the table. I've spent the last 6 months auditing your own annual reports, quietly. I've been following the trail of unethical sourcing in your supply chain. The ghost employees in the overseas plants. The sudden drop in employee retention. The room quieted. Someone shifted in their chair. Daniel's face darkened. That's confidential. It was public the moment it started costing people their lives. Gerald opened the file, eyes narrowing. Where did you get this? From the company's servers. I still have access through Mom's estate account. I've also contacted 3 journalists. I gave them a 48-hour holdout before they publish. You're bluffing, Daniel snapped. I'm not, Maya said, her voice calm, but her hands were tight beneath the table. And I'm not here to bring this place down. I'm here to save what's left. But I'm doing it my way. She stood slowly, planting her palms on the table. You want stability? You want the media off your backs and the shareholders calm? Then you work with me. Or you watch this entire empire burn from the inside out. No one spoke. Finally, Gerald closed the file. She's got steel, he muttered. Your mother was right. Daniel stood. You'll regret this. Maya met his glare with tired eyes. I've already regretted too much. That night, Maya sat on the floor of her apartment, same cheap couch, same flickering kitchen light, and stared at the documents in her hands. Her mother's will. Her trust. Her handwritten note tucked inside the envelope that had turned everything upside down. Forgive your father if you can. But never forget who you are. I see you, Maya. I always did. Maya pressed her forehead to her knees and finally let herself cry. Not out of triumph, but out of grief. Grief for a mother gone too soon. Grief for a family that had never been whole. Grief for a girl who grew up thinking she had to stay small to be safe. The next morning, Maya returned to the estate, not as a guest, but as its new owner. Her father was in the garden, pruning roses like nothing had happened. He didn't look up when she approached. You've made quite the mess. I'm cleaning up yours, she said gently. A pause. Then he said, Your mother always had a way of making things seem simple. Maya folded her arms. She believed in me, Dad. She also believed in forgiveness, he replied without meeting her eyes. Maya sighed. I'm not here to punish you, but I won't forget how you treated me. And I won't allow you to treat others the same way. He finally looked at her. For the first time in years, there was no contempt. Just age. Just weariness. You really think you can run that company? I think I already am. She turned to leave, but paused. I'll send a nurse tomorrow. You're getting too old to pretend you don't need help. That was her kindness. Not a grand gesture. Just simple care, without strings. He didn't thank her, but he didn't stop her either.
And that was a start.
The morning news hit like a storm surge. Hawthorne Corporation under fire for overseas labor scandal. Whistleblower info traced back to family source. Daniel's revenge had begun. Maya sat at her office desk, her mother's old one, watching the article scroll on her tablet, her coffee untouched. The company was already fragile. She had come in trying to fix things, but Daniel wasn't going to let her have that chance. He wasn't stupid. He was strategic. And he was using the same thing Maya had tried to protect, the company's truth, as a weapon against her. The boardroom was chaos by 9 a.m. Miss Hawthorne, do you deny being the leak? Someone barked as she stepped in. Maya stayed calm. The information was real. It was wrong. And it was going to surface sooner or later. But I did not go to the press. Gerald slammed his hand on the table. Then who did? She already knew. Daniel wasn't in the room. But his fingerprints were all over it. The board demanded containment. The PR team begged her to step back. Investors were on edge. Stocks were dipping by the hour. And whispers swirled that Maya's leadership had already failed. That night, Maya walked into her apartment and found an envelope taped to her door. No return address. Inside was a single photo, her mother, in a hospital bed, holding a sealed envelope. And a note. You think you were the only one she talked to? Think again. Maya's hands shook. This was personal. Daniel wasn't attacking the company anymore. He was attacking her memory of their mother. The next day, she walked into her father's private study unannounced. He was there, seated behind the fireplace, drink in hand. You knew he'd do this, she said quietly. Reginald didn't look up. He was always going to fight. You took his throne.
No, she said.
I took what Mom left me. And you let him burn her legacy down. He finally met her eyes. I was never the kind of father who could raise you. That's the first honest thing you've said to me. He chuckled bitterly. You think she left you the company because you're better?
No.
She left it to you because she was trying to fix me. Maya stared. The words hit like glass, sharp and too late to take back. Then fix it now, she said. Tell the board what Daniel's doing. I can't. Why? Because I already signed away my voting rights to him. 2 months before your mother died. For the first time, Maya felt it, the sheer depth of how deeply her family had rooted against her. And yet, her mother had still left her everything. Even in the face of sabotage. Even in the face of legal roadblocks.
Why?
Because she believed Maya would fight anyway. Later that night, Maya returned to her apartment and sat in silence. She lit a candle, her mother's favorite lavender scent, and stared at the ceiling. The door buzzed. It was Mrs. Trina, her old neighbor from when she was a broke student doing overnight casework. The older woman still walked with a limp and wore the same patched cardigan. I saw you on TV, she said, holding out a small container. You haven't eaten, I bet. Maya blinked hard. No one had checked on her. Not the board. Not her father. But this woman, this simple, warm soul, had. Thanks, Maya whispered. I didn't know how much I needed this. You always looked tired, Trina said, sitting beside her. But your heart was louder than your steps. Maya smiled. Just a little. That night, she opened her laptop and sent an email that would shake the company to its core. To all employees, I am not perfect, and I'm not here to pretend the Hawthorne legacy is clean. But starting tomorrow, we're changing everything. Starting with how we treat the people who built this company from the ground up. No more secrets. No more silence. Maya Hawthorne, CEO. The next morning, media vans were already parked outside the office. Daniel showed up late. His smirk died when he saw the crowd cheering Maya's name. She had called a press conference.
Live.
Unfiltered. And in front of the cameras, she spoke not like a corporate heiress, but like a woman who had lived in the margins. "I am not the daughter my father praised," she began. "I'm the daughter he ignored. And I'm here because someone once told me I was worth something, even when the world said I wasn't." People watched. People listened. Some cried. Even a few board members stood behind her as she promised to rebuild, not to reign. Back inside, Daniel confronted her. "You humiliated me." "No," Maya said. "You did that yourself. You think this is over?" "It never will be," she replied. "But I'm not here to win. I'm here to heal." Daniel's voice cracked. "Mom always said you had her heart. I used to think that was an insult. And now I know. I never really knew what it meant." Maya's office was quiet again, finally. No cameras, no protests, no calls from investors. Just her and a stack of internal reports on employee conditions. She was exhausted, but something inside her had settled. A calm determination. She was no longer surviving. She was building. That's when she got the email. Subject: unsent draft, found in Mrs. Hawthorne's archive. Attached was a scanned handwritten letter. Her mother's handwriting. "If you're reading this, Maya, I didn't get to say it in person. You were never the easy child, but only because you carried too much heart. You cared too much, too early. Your father never saw it. Daniel never understood it. But I did. If this company is ever yours, promise me one thing. Don't let it harden you." Maya froze. It was a letter never sent, but it was meant for her. Later that evening, Maya walked into the employee cafeteria. No cameras, no press.
Just people.
Real people. She sat beside a janitor. "Mind if I join you?" He blinked. You're the CEO." "I'm also someone who used to sweep floors in a shelter," she smiled. "So, I think we're good." Word spread fast. That Maya didn't just speak like one of them, she was one of them. The change began quietly. Health benefits. Flexible hours. Open-door meetings. The factory workers wrote her a thank you banner. Daniel watched from afar, furious, but powerless. One day, Reginald called her. "I saw the press," he said. "The people, they adore you." Maya was quiet. "I'm not doing it to be adored." "Then why?" She hesitated. "Because I don't want anyone else to grow up feeling like I did." Her father didn't reply. But for the first time, he didn't hang up, either. The next morning, a small envelope was slid under her door. Inside, a photo of her mother, Maya as a child on her lap, and a post-it in Daniel's handwriting. She was right. You were always the strong one. The annual Hawthorne Foundation Gala was once her father's kingdom. A parade of power, wealth, and cold handshakes. This year, it looked different. There were no gold-plated name tags. No velvet ropes. Instead, nurses from local clinics, former factory workers, and scholarship recipients filled the room. Invited guests, not silent shadows. Maya stood near the stage in a modest dark blue dress. Nothing flashy. But she held herself like someone who had nothing to prove anymore. Daniel approached quietly. "I wasn't invited," he muttered. Maya looked at him. "You're here anyway." He shrugged. "Just wanted to see what a company looks like when it's actually loved." She studied him. "You really didn't see this coming?" "I thought power was everything," he admitted. "Turns out, maybe I was just scared you'd make it without us." Maya didn't respond right away. Then, calmly, "You're not the enemy, Daniel. You just didn't know what love looked like when it wasn't transactional." He looked down. "You forgiving me?" "No," she said gently, "but I'm letting go." Later that night, as Maya stood at the podium, she read from a page that wasn't part of her speech. It was the last line of her mother's letter. "Build something they can't destroy. Not with fear, not with greed. Build something that remembers people." The room fell into stillness. She looked out over the crowd, faces that used to be forgotten, now finally seen. "I didn't inherit a fortune," she said softly. "I inherited a responsibility." Outside, her father waited by the valet. He looked smaller now, older. As Maya walked by, he said just one thing. You became everything your mother hoped for. She didn't reply, but her